Hi, I'm Dr. Marci Bryant, inviting you to tune into my show, The Dr. Marci Bryant Show, the show where you learn it, live it, and pass it on. We're going to be talking to authors, Christian authors, who is going to give their story as to how they got to be a published author. We're also going to be talking to Christian business men and women so that they can tell you what obstacles they had to overcome. We are going to look forward to having a great time because we want to encourage you to learn it, live it, and pass it on. We want you to get off of that sofa and start pursuing your dreams on Channel TV 28 Lapa Network.
Hello, and welcome to today's show, the show where one is about to learn it, live it, and pass it on. It is time to change your life. And here she is, our host, Dr. Marci Bryant.
Welcome to the show. We have an exciting show for you today. How many times have you reached an impasse in your life where you felt like you couldn't go on, where you felt like you just didn't know how you fit? So today's guest is going to talk to us about some of the things that kept them locked up and kept them from pursuing their dreams, and then how they got past it. We want to thank God for this wonderful opportunity to share with you, because we know that some of you out there are not living your dreams, and we want to make a difference in your life. We want you to make the difference that you were put in the earth to make. So without further ado, we're going to welcome our guest to the show. Our guest today is Dr. Randy Bell, Sr. He is here from Marietta, Georgia. And Dr. Randy, welcome to the show.
Thank you. Thank you. Pleasure to be here.
Oh, God, it is a pleasure. I've been looking forward to this for quite some time. So, Dr. Randy, we're going to let this viewing audience and the TV audience know a little bit about your background. Now, I understand that you have a staunch military background, so tell us a little bit about that first.
Well, yes, I do. Yes, ma'am. I served in the U.S. Army. I did 12 years. I actually got hurt on a jump. Otherwise, this would have been my 28th year in service. I did various things. I was a paratrooper, jumped off of mountains and cliffs for a living.
Oh, my goodness.
Jumped out of airplanes. I was a senior drill sergeant of about maybe 8,000 to 10,000 soldiers after over a 3-year period. So I was blessed. I got to do a lot of things that I probably would never have done without having, if I was absent of the military. And I got to go to school. And so I was able to travel the world for free. Met my lovely wife of 17 and a half years in the Army. She was a drill instructor too.
Oh, that's wonderful.
So,
oh,
so a lot of people wonder, do you all do that with your kids? I said, no, we don't take that home. So,
oh, all right, all right. Now, since you don't take that home, I'd like to know how you made the transition from the military over into the ministry, because I understand that you are the chief apostle of Zoe Life Ministries. Mm-hmm. So give us a little bit of information about how you left the service and how you knew you were called to the ministry.
Well, it's interesting, Dr. Bryant. I actually got saved when I was 20 years old.
Okay.
My son, who's now 25, he was 8 months at the time, mm-hmm. and he had to have open heart surgery.
Oh, my.
And I was so afraid I was going to lose him. And so the chaplain was a military chaplain that was talking to me, found out he was pastor of a church outside of San Antonio where I was living at the time, and I got saved. A year later, I ran from God.
Oh, my.
And I ran from God for 9 years.
Well, so many of us do that. I'm a witness too,
Yeah.
But you ran for 9 years. What caused you to stop running?
I stopped running. What caused me to stop running really was my wife, number one. Before we married, I realized that I was getting the better end of the deal between the two of us. Okay. And so I knew that I had to be right. And I knew deep down on the inside I had ran from God, and I had no excuse from running from God no matter what had happened. And I wanted to get back with the Lord. And so I figured, you know what, once we get married, let's go for it together with the Lord. And that's what happened. Got married. I was actually transferred to Fort Bragg, North Carolina, found a church, got saved, or rededicated my life. My wife showed up about several months later because she was still a drill instructor, and she gave her life to the Lord Jesus. And our stepdaughter, my stepdaughter, her daughter did as well, and all three of us got baptized together. And so we've been running for God ever since.
Oh, that's wonderful. Now, Even though you've been running for God ever since, I understand that it has not been a smooth transition. You have had some very difficult times with this ministry, and I'd like you to share with our audience what some of those difficult times were and how you dealt with them.
Well, I believe that I had the call of God on my life way back in 2000. And when I got that call, I was very exuberant. I was so excited, as most people are. Most people are very excited when they believe God has called them to the ministry. But I didn't know what to do. And so one of the first things I did was I went to my pastor at that time. And I said, well, look, Pastor, I believe I'm called to the ministry. Now, at that time, I was teaching Sunday school. I was teaching Sunday school, and I think I was doing a pretty good job, and he said I was doing a good job. And I could tell he wasn't really too interested, and he just told me to go to school. And so I said, okay. I started going to school.
Going to school for what purpose?
I went to school, one, to get a degree, and to learn about God, to learn more about Him.
So it was a faith-based degree. He sent you to get a faith-based degree. Okay, keep on.
I sure did. I went to a faith-based school. In fact, I went to Liberty University. I got my bachelor's degree in religion there. And I remember when I had told him that I was, going into the ministry. I believe God was calling me to the ministry. And I remember he didn't say anything about it. He didn't say anything about it. In fact, he announced it, that someone else was going into the ministry and just totally ignored me. And so I kind of viewed that as rejection and a bit of frustration. And so I continued to go to school. I continued to study. And I got my degree. In the meantime, I went to another ministry where I trained for approximately 6 years on ministry, writing sermons, teaching, preaching, aspects of ministry. But I wasn't doing anything, and it was, I was kind of frustrated.
Now, when you say I wasn't doing anything, could you be a little bit more specific? Because I heard you say you was teaching and you was preaching and you were teaching Sunday school. Some of our viewers might be saying, well, he was doing something. What do you mean you weren't doing anything?
Well, what I mean was I wasn't in that ministry where I was teaching Sunday school. So I moved to another one, and so I was in a training phase.
Okay.
And so it was a bit frustrating because I wasn't doing anything. But I was always told that that preparation time is never lost time. And so that was what kept me going. And so I studied under a mighty man of God for about 6 years, and promises were made that weren't kept, such as licensure, ordination, and things of that nature.
That
and so
probably discouraged you, correct?
That discouraged me quite a bit. I was hurt because I was traveling to another city. I did it faithfully for 6 years. I was going to Sunday service. He had also a Sunday school. I was going to that, both services. On Saturday, I was in training. On Thursday, we had service. On Wednesday, we had service. And so I was traveling 45 minutes to an hour to another town. And I did this faithfully for 6 years.
Okay, what was the turning point for you? What made you decide that this is it, that you needed to go out and start Zoe Life Ministries? What turned you around?
What turned me around was when, at this time, I had just finished my master's degree. I got accepted into a doctoral program. And in my application, I had to list everything that I did. And so one of the directors of the program contacted me and said, well, why aren't you licensed and ordained? And I said, well, I don't know. The people that I was under or submitted to, I guess they didn't see it fit to license and ordain me. And one of the directors, I never forget, he said, you should have been licensed and ordained 6 or 7 years ago.
Oh, my.
And he said, I'm going to help you. And they ordained me.
Oh, that's wonderful.
The school ordained me.
Ordained. Yeah. Isn't that wonderful? Well, for those of you who are listening out there in TV land, we want you to know that you don't have to be discouraged, and you don't have to allow your dreams to lie dormant again year after year after year, because when God has a call on your life, He's going to do something. He's going to move in order to make it happen. Now, you heard Dr. Randy tell you that it took him 6 years working with someone who didn't ordain him, and God sent him on a path where it could happen. Is that correct?
That is correct. I was so surprised. By that time, I was into my 9th year in ministry, and I hadn't done anything as far as pastoring or anything like that. And to get that help and to get that encouragement, that kept me going. And then it's so interesting. I was ordained by the university that I received my doctorate degree from. Then 10 months later, an old friend of mine who's a pastor down in Texas, he looked me up and found me on social media, and he said, well, why aren't you a minister? And I hadn't talked to him about ministry. In fact, I hadn't talked to him in 16 years. He sent me, called for me. I went down to Texas. He paid for my trip and everything. I preached for him, didn't know what was going on, walked out. He had licensed he had licensed me. So now I was licensed, I was ordained, and I felt equipped, I felt ready to go forward. And that kept me going, and that blessed my life.
Okay, that's good. I'm so glad to hear that. All right, now there's some other things that we're going to talk about because we're getting ready to approach our break, and there's some other things that we're going to talk about when we come back. But in parting this segment, what are some of the, what is one main ministry that you're working on right now that I think I want to say it, but I want to hear you say it?
Well, right now God has me doing conferences, and right now He has me doing what's called the Love Connection Conference.
Yes, the Love Connection. We're going to talk a little bit more about that when we come back. And we are also going to talk about a spiritual checkup because I understand that you are an author. You have a book out that people really, really need to hear. So we're going to take a break right now, and we're going to come back in a few minutes.
And they keep us in bondage. Our doubt paralyzes us and keeps us from moving forward. No Need to Run. Available at tatepublishing.com.
Hi, I'm Dr. Marci Bryant, inviting you to tune into my show, The Dr. Marci Bryant Show, the show where you learn it, live it, and pass it on. We're going to be talking to authors, Christian authors, who is going to give their story as to how they got to be a published author. We're also going to be talking to Christian business men and women so that they can tell you what obstacles they had to overcome. We are going to look forward to having a great time because we want to encourage you to learn it, live it, and pass it on. We want you to get off of that sofa and start pursuing your dreams on Channel TV 28 Lapa Network.
Our fears become our reality, and they keep us in bondage. Our doubt paralyzes us and keeps us from moving forward. No Need to Run. Available at tatepublishing.com.
Welcome back. For those of you who are just joining us, We are talking with Dr. Randy Bell from Marietta, Georgia. He has been telling us a bit about his life from military transition into Zoe Life Ministries. And now we're going to talk about one of the ministries that is within that major ministry that is very dear to his heart. It is called the Love Connection. So Dr. Bell, if you would tell us about the Love Connection, how it got started, and what purpose does it serve?
Well, Jesus said in John chapter 13, verses 34 and 35, he says, "A new commandment I give you, that you love one another just as I've loved you." And he said, "By this, all men will know that you're my disciple, if you show love one to another." Now, I've been studying that for years. And so God, this year, earlier this year, he basically said, "I want you to do a conference, and I want you to call it the Love Connection Conference, and I want you to speak on what love is from my viewpoint, from God's viewpoint, to the people of God and to anyone else that's willing to hear it." And so we've had 2 so far, and we have a few more coming up this year. We had one in Marietta, and then we had one in North Carolina, and they've been a huge success. We've gotten people, we've gotten invites to minister, and to minister specifically on that. We've helped heal couples' marriages, and because it addresses marriages, but it also addresses all types of relationships.
That's what I was about to ask. It's the Love Connection is not just for marrieds, it's for maybe parent and child.
That's right.
Brothers and sisters, anyone who's having a problem with what love really is and communicating one to another.
Yes.
Would you give us a success story, at least 1 or 2, briefly, that you can recall of how the Love Connection has made a difference in someone's life?
Well, one couple was not married, came to the conference. They were from out of town, and after it, I don't know what went on, but they were arguing. Apparently, they weren't in agreement. And after that, they had settled down, and they asked me to marry them, and so I married them 3 months later. And so they're happy right now,
Okay.
and I believe they'll stay that way. And so that's one good success story. And so
Now they went from arguing
to getting married.
to getting married in 3 months. Okay, can you specifically remember any point that you helped them resolve, any issue that was a turning point?
Well, in the conference, I say something that a lot of people kind of turn their heads and look at me kind of funny. I said that you should never marry based on love. Love is not the basis for marriage. It should be knowledge. Knowledge is what grows a marriage. And
yeah, we want you to expound on that
well,
just a little bit more.
If you notice, when a gentleman asks a lady out, he doesn't ask her out to date her. He wants to get to know her.
Okay.
He wants to get to know her.
Okay.
It's always, I want to get to know you. Because based on the knowledge that you have, you can make a decision whether or not you can love someone. Because love is not an emotion, it's a decision.
Oh, now that's new. Love, you heard it right here. Love is not an emotion. It's a decision.
It's a decision.
And when we think of bring God into this, agape love, because it is long suffering. It isn't just that feel good when everything is going fine and peachy, and then all of a sudden I'm mad with you, so we've got nothing now. Love doesn't go away like that.
Right.
So the more you know about a person, you can make your decision as to whether you can go all the way with them.
Absolutely.
Correct?
Absolutely.
Okay. So I suppose you help them see that.
I helped him see that. He saw that. It opened his eyes, the husband, and it changed him. It changed him. He wept right there in the conference, and it just changed his whole way of thinking, because he said no one has ever told him that. He didn't know that. And so I just thank God for that.
Oh, good. Okay. Well, now that we've heard that success story, before we get into another one, we do have to talk about your book. We have to talk about a spiritual checkup. And I need to know your inspiration behind writing this book. I mean, why would I buy this book? Why do I want to read it? What's my takeaway?
Well, I wrote a spiritual checkup, and the way I wrote it was funny, but I wrote it because we all can grow. We all can grow. We all need to grow. And so this book is not exhaustive, of course, but it does deal with 10 particular points that we all deal with almost daily. And if we can fix things in our lives in the spirit realm and on the inside of us, that will take care of what's going on in the natural around us. And a lot of times many believers, they do things backwards. They go in the flesh to try to solve something in the natural instead of going into the spirit first.
Oh, I know about that.
Because when you solve the issues of the spirit,
yes,
it automatically manifests in the natural and it solves the issues in the natural. But it does require work. And so this book addresses 10 specific things that we have to deal with. And if we read it and we want to make ourselves better on the inside, this is kind of a handbook or a workbook that helps us.
Okay, give me one of those 10 things that this book will teach you to work with.
Well, one of them is chapter 1, how well do you hear?
Oh, that's a great one.
And each chapter is a question, but how well do you hear? Because most people don't hear properly. And in each chapter, I talk about 3 things: different types of hearers, different types of thinkers, the importance of hearing, and then steps to better hearing. So I don't leave the reader without help. I give techniques and I give points on how to be better at hearing or better at anything else that's in the book.
Okay, that's wonderful. Well, Dr. Randy, I want to share with our TV audience today that you came here prepared to bless one of them with a copy of a spiritual checkup.
Yes, ma'am.
They don't know about this, but one person out in the audience is sitting in the, I don't want to use the word lucky, so I'm going to say fortunate. One of the audience is sitting in the fortunate seat and they are going to walk away. Now, they don't know this, but prior to those seats being set in, left to right and right to left was discussed. We did not know who was going to be sitting in the seats, and we did not know what number Dr. Bell was going to use, but one of them is sitting in the seat, and we are going to let them know that they are going to get this book and they will not have to pay for it. It is a gift, so we want them to read it and share it. And Dr. Bell, if you can tell them what you hope their takeaway is going to be, what do you hope their takeaway will be for getting this book?
My takeaway is that anyone who reads this book will be enhanced in their spirit life and in their mind. Because if those areas are fixed, everything else will fall into place. Finances will fall into place, healing will fall into place, deliverance will fall into place. Every good gift that comes from God is from above, and if that is taking care of the spirit as well as the mind, then everything else will fall into place. And I just want all readers to be blessed by the book and to grow. And this book is designed for you to grow. It's designed for the reader to grow. The only way the reader won't grow is if the reader just reads the book and says, I'm not doing it.
Oh my goodness. Well, whoever gets this book, that means you read it and you do it, because you are going to grow spiritually. Now, how much does this book sell for?
The book sells for $17.95.
$17.95, and I'm looking through it, and it is a fantastic workbook. How well do you praise and worship? You know, some people just do not praise God. Some people definitely don't worship God, because, you know, the word teaches us that we have to worship him in spirit and in truth.
Absolutely.
So how can you worship God in spirit if you don't know him?
All
right. Okay. How well do you love? Boy, I think I want to read that one. How well do you love? I see this. How well do you speak? Oh my gosh, different types of prayers. This book is filled with a lot of information, and it's a lot of work. And so, but if you're really serious about your spiritual health and your spiritual well-being, you definitely want to get a copy of this book. And so, Dr. Randy, before I disclose who's going to get the book, I would like you to give us at least one more success story from your love connection, and you know, so that we can bless the audience with that.
Well, I would like to say that my stepdaughter, she went through the Love Connection conference along with her fiance. They're now married, and I had the pleasure of marrying them back in August. And they asked me earlier this year, I believe it was January, February timeframe, if I would perform the wedding. And I said, I'll do it only on one condition. You have to go through my Love Connection conference.
Isn't that wonderful? And they did it.
They did it. They did it. It was a special one for them because it was just for the two of them. And they did it, and they learned some things, particularly the groom, that he did not know. And he said, you know what, I'm going to be implementing these things in my marriage as I love your stepdaughter.
Isn't that wonderful? Yeah. Now listen, is your Love Conference mobile? Are you willing to take it anywhere?
Yes, I take it anywhere. We just came back from North Carolina. We'll go anywhere for the Love Connection Conference. The conference is not about me or anything like that. It's about saving lives. It's about representing Jesus Christ as his ambassador. And a lot of people see believers, but because they don't walk, but because some of us don't walk in love or are not mindful in walking in love, they don't see Jesus, and we miss the opportunity for people to be saved. We miss the opportunity for lives to be changed. We miss the opportunity to be a part of deliverance and things, things that are being mended by God. We get to be a part of that. But when we do not walk in the love of God, then the world don't get to see Jesus, and the world makes the decision that, hey, if the Christian world is like this, I may as well stay where I'm at right now.
And I can appreciate that. That's how a lot of people feel, that I can get this from the world. I don't need to go to Jesus and get more of that. But that is a good thing that you brought that out for us. And so your contact information is on the screen. They've been putting that up there. How would you prefer people contact you? Would you prefer them to use the phone number or your website?
I would prefer an email, because I don't have that phone with me 24 hours a day.
Okay, so you hear that. If you need to get in touch with Dr. Randy Bell, what you want to do is you want to email him, and you're going to see his contact information up on the screen, and he will definitely answer you back, because I mean, every time I've contacted him in the years in which we've known each other, he's always gotten back to me, and he has never been slack on that. And I met him several years ago in North Carolina through a mutual acquaintance, and we didn't understand why we were meeting, but God had us to come together for such a time as this. So Dr. Randy, do you have any parting words that you would like to give to our audience and our viewers today? Anything you'd like to share with them?
I would like to tell all of you, first of all, it's an honor to be before you and to get to, give my testimony in part. I just want you to know, don't give up. God has a plan and a purpose for you. But it is up to us to find out what that is. But God is a good God, and he's right there with you. But don't give up. Walk by faith. Go through the process. So many people are half-baked these days in ministry because they won't go through the process. Go through the process. Go through the pain and endure to the end, and there's a reward for you.
All right. Thank you so much for being my guest today.
Thank you.
And there you have it. We want you to learn it, live it, and pass it on. God bless you, and we'll see you next week.